for this bit, I want to talk about what he started off chatting about, which is about us all becoming counter-terrorism citizens. By that he meant report anything suspicious. What do you think about that? Is it something that you would do anyway? Or maybe you think that there's a better way of tackling the problem? Let me know what you think. You could call me on 03459 440 445, text 81869, or email thebigdebate@bbc.co.uk. Let's chat about it with Imran Shah, who's from the Muslim Public Affairs Committee, and Henna Rai, who's from Women Against Radicalisation Network. Hello, both.
Hi.
Hi. Hello there. If I could
morning.
start, good morning, even. Yes. If I could start with you, Imran, are you a counter-terrorism citizen?
No, definitely not.
Why is that?
I mean, the reason why is when you look at the many different surveys of public services who are under the duty, prevent duty, for example, of doing this, you have some worrying signs. Or even just yesterday, there was a report that came out that 70% of NHS staff surveyed would be likely or very likely to raise prevent query on the basis of owning an Islamic book. So just because you have a philosophy book or Islamic book in your hand, that in itself is essentially refer worthy to be referred to prevent. And there's other cases where, like a healthcare professional went to the home of a patient and they saw a child watching Arabic TV. Again, that was prevent worthy. So you have these situations where people are coming out of prevent training and they're referring people like this, and it's absurd in the sense that you have similar things happening in the teaching profession now as well as the university profession, and these are things that the government know about. These are things that essentially that the security personnel know about. They have been highlighted and scrutinized in the public and in a private setting, and yet we still see training creating these conditions. And what's happening here is that safeguarding used to mean welfare. They're looking after the welfare of people, and what that definition is changing to is that we're looking after the security of the state. So what you have is that the idea that we must now, as in the background of cuts when it comes to policing, when it comes to social care, when it comes to austerity in general, which is causing poverty by the millions and even causing deaths, where people are on a macro level becoming much more vulnerable, much more...
Imran, I want to unpick some of what you said, but if I can take you back to the key thing that Neil Basu was talking about in terms of today, was that he wants everybody to become counter-terrorism citizens, which means he wants everybody to report anything suspicious to protect us all. Would you do that if you knew of anything that you felt could be very dangerous?
If I had reasonable idea of that that is extremely clear, but what the signs that they're asking us to do is to essentially report signs that are completely normal in our ordinary lives. And what this kind of rhetoric, this kind of policy, is what you have historically in Stasi Germany and in other sort of non-democratic sort of settings and totalitarian
I think that's a bit unfair. You may disagree with it, but I wouldn't say you could go to those proportions. And also prevent. There are a lot of people who actually think prevent does a good job. There are a lot of people who disagree with it and have issues around it in terms of, whether it's doing it the right way, whether it could change things. But in terms of what it's trying to do and address, lots of people would say, actually, it's a good thing. And we need something like that. We've got lots of time to discuss these things, Imran, so we'll carry on chatting about it. So stay on the line. But I want to try and bring in Henna, if I can, Henna Rai from Women Against Radicalisation Network. Let me ask the same question to you, Henna, as I asked to Imran. Would you consider yourself a counter-terrorism citizen? That is somebody who would report anything suspicious that may put us at risk, or any sort of behaviour that you feel is dangerous?
Dill, if I didn't consider myself as a counter-terrorism citizen, I wouldn't have set up my organisation first and foremost. It was because of the impacts extremism has had on me personally and on the people that I love and care for, which led me to set up my organisation. And through the network, we have been training people at grassroots level to be aware of what extremism is and what the impact of terrorism is on people living in society.
Now, what would you say to Imran, who expressed concerns, and there are many people who share those concerns?
The concerns, and frankly, I'm tired of this whole effort of the anti-prevent brigade of peddling the myths and the lies and the fake stories to say prevent is not working or prevent is targeting certain community and things like that. It is just not true. Now, the referral method to prevent is a purely voluntary program, and it happens through an integral process.
Hold on, Imran. Hold on, Imran. Let Henna finish a point, and then by all means, please do respond.
Yes, I did not interfere or interrupt his conversation. I'd appreciate the same accorded respect, please. Now, you know, the myths and lies peddled by the anti-prevent brigade have frankly tired us, because there are many untruths that are being pushed out there saying it's targeting a community when it's not. I have made prevent referrals. I've made 2 prevent referrals since I set up my organisation across 2 years. And one was for a young girl who was being groomed online by a jihadi in Syria who was trying to persuade her to leave her family and go to Syria. We managed to safeguard this girl with the help and support of her school and the prevent officer based at her school. The second prevent referral I made was at a school again in Birmingham, which was for a young boy who was being groomed exactly the same way by the far right. So to say prevent only targets one community is disingenuous and frankly a lie.
Henna, sorry, Imran, just for a second. Henna, Neil Basu was wanting us all to become counter-terrorism citizens. Yes. But essentially what he was saying was that we've all got a role to play, and he acknowledged that...
We've all got a role to play, and we have a responsibility.
We have a responsibility, but he acknowledged that actually good relations with communities are central to that, so that communities feel that this is important for them, and that they develop a good, strong relationship with the police to do that. But there are a lot of people who don't feel confident, enough to do that.
This is where organisations like mine are crucial, where we help facilitate that good relationship, not only with the police force and the CTU units, but with counter-extremism experts, with the policymakers, where their voices will be heard. And we provide the mediatory role, as well as the middle ground to it, where we encourage the dialogue, we encourage discussions, we encourage critical thought. And I'm not saying prevent is perfect. There are many flaws. There's issues where training has failed and things like that, which are being addressed as we speak. But at the same time, it is a complete safeguarding effort by authorities, which is voluntary and decriminalising. It has nothing to do with criminalisation. This is something that needs to be understood by everybody out there.
Let's bring Imran back in. Imran, can I just ask you a point, that Henna raises, that actually we shouldn't be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You may have concerns about aspects of prevent, but isn't it better for somebody like you and your group and organisation and people who help and support you to help the police to improve what they're doing? So it's better for all of us, rather than sort of saying, no, we don't like it, so we're not going to work with you, or we disagree with you, because that doesn't help, does it, all of us in the long run?
The thing is, lots of people have tried to engage over the last decade. And when you look at the decade-long advice of unions, vice-chancellors, university academics who research in this field, security, intelligence and policing staff, parliamentary independent reviewers, as well as civil rights and human rights organisations, the general feedback to police and the government, especially the government, has been that this sort of stuff is what causes society to turn upon itself, and the root causes of these sort of issues, they cite austerity policies, they cite foreign policy grievances, they cite cuts to social care. These are the things that make people very vulnerable psychologically, physically, and make them vulnerable for radicalisation. These are the things that they criticise prevent for, because prevent prevent is only single-minded on ideology.
Okay.
And the government wants to do that.
Imran, sorry to interrupt.
Because it's really important. The government doesn't want to do that, and it's ignored that for many years, because that would mean that if they acknowledge their policies are causing this on a macro scale, it means accountability is upon them. Rather, they religiously want to stick to this line of ideology because it means they can start to scapegoat ordinary people, and especially Muslim communities, for the problems that governments are causing on a macro scale.
Okay, Imran, let me because we need to sort of bring in other aspects of this. If I can go back to the main central core of what Neil Basu is talking about today, is about us individuals, you, me, and Hannah and everybody else, reporting anything suspicious. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, but what we're told is suspicious is very ordinary things, and that in itself is very dangerous. And we've seen how it has caused injustices, or even caused more fear in our society. And we have to understand, we're talking about a government that does not want to listen to its citizens, the impacts this is having negatively. Yes, okay, it may have done some good things, but overall it's creating a culture in which we are willing to spy on each other for ordinary things and refer them upon it.
Yeah, I think the government would disagree and sort of say that actually, it's well-intentioned, it's trying to do the right thing, it's trying to help and address what is probably one of the biggest challenges we face today. What do you think, Hannah?
Jill, it's actually quite amusing, I suppose bemusing to be honest, to hear that this is suspicious behaviour is ordinary things. That is not what suspicious behaviour is. My organisation trains on how to spot the signs of an extremist or somebody who's being radicalised, and it's a
what are those? Are you able to share that with us? What are the signs?
It's very complex.
What should we all look out for if we're all counter-terrorism citizens?
There are it's a complex procedure. My entire presentation is a 90-minute presentation, so I don't think I'd be able to summarise it well.
You must be able to point out a couple of headlines. If you're talking to me?
Okay, let me just say what they're not. Let me make it easier, and let me say what it's not. It's not somebody sitting on the tube reading a religious text. It is not somebody who's dressed in a religious in an outwardly religious fashion. It's definitely not somebody carrying a rucksack. So there is not. However, that young boy, somebody leaving a bag unattended would constitute, and walking away, such as the Parsons Green bomber, would count as suspicious activity. If you see wires sticking out of a bag, if you smell marzipan on a person, those kind of, because TNT has a marzipan kind of smell.
But
that kind of thing. So these are very complex.
But those sorts of things, Hannah, you would have thought that if somebody sees wires out of a bag and a bag left like that, unattended with wires sticking out, that I think for most people that would be a no-brainer. But it's just the other way.
You'd be surprised because when we look back at Parsons Green.
Sorry, one second, Hannah. When we heard the stuff about the NHS, about people who are being reported,
a lot of those
and that doesn't seem to be working properly.
No, a lot of those are misreported, so they're not reported in their entirety, and they're actually twisted and turned to make it sound like it was absolutely no call for this, and it became a huge prevent referral. Can I take you back a few months, even last year, where the issues about that young boy who said he was living in a terrorist house was made into, oh my God, this is a massive prevent failure. He was targeted, his family was targeted. No, there were safeguarding issues, and that was never a prevent referral. So again, we're tired of hearing this constant narrative of prevent is failing because it's targeting Muslims. It is not just targeting Muslims. It is targeting all kinds of extremism. My organisation is evidence of the fact that it tackles all kinds of extremism, because we deal with the far right, we deal with Hindu nationalism and Hindu extremism, we deal with Sikh extremism, we deal with Islamist extremism.
Henna, with what Neil Basu's been talking about today, as I said before, about all of us being counter-terrorism citizens and a release of the film, do you think that's, that's a good thing? In a sense, it's almost like stating the obvious, isn't it? Doesn't it sort of like, after a while, sort of people start to think, I've heard that already?
But then people forget to look past the end of their nose and realising the obvious. Sometimes the obvious needs to be reminded, so that we are constantly aware. Now, what I would say is see the film and then criticise. I mean, what the habit has become now, for people who are extremely against, pardon the pun, counter extremism, is to, even before seeing what is being offered and what is on the table, they will jump to the whole criticism and this is against us and we don't want it. Yet we see those very same organisations that are against counter-extremism repackaging the entire Prevent policy and presenting it themselves, but just calling it something else and saying this is what we've come up with. Excuse me, that is exactly what Prevent does. So I don't see your problem now. I don't see how you can justify your problem with Prevent.
Okay, let me.
If you understand what I'm saying,
Henna, let me ask Imran. Imran, we heard loud and clear your concerns and anxieties about how we're addressing this. What are the things that you would? What type of suspicious behaviour and concerns would you report?
I mean, if there's clear no-brainer examples like you just mentioned,
like what bags wires out of a bag.
Yeah, if someone left the bag there and they don't appear to be returning back, and there is wires coming out of it, obviously that will be something that will be possibly report worthy, or I'd make sure that person is left there, run after that person, make sure they've left they know that they've left the bag and see how they respond. So just common sense sort of stuff like that. But then we don't, even when we came to the clip with the police chief, he didn't cite those examples. He cited examples where where your kids may change behaviour or whatnot. So it's just these are really these are the really suspicious things. But again, the fundamental problem with Prevent, and again, this is not just quote unquote Prevent haters that are saying this. These are people who have researched these issues and I've seen the impact on the ground, is that Prevent only deals with ideology. So even when it comes to far right terrorism, and yes, there is a disparity in how it's dealt with, because guess what? Hate preachers like Britain First and Tommy Robinson, they've never been referred to Prevent or dealt with Prevent in any way.
No, but they're Prevent and the police's and government's anti-sort of terrorism, counter-terrorism sort of policies are aimed at addressing the far right as well, the growing numbers of far right extremists, and that, because that's what Neil Basu told me as well. Let me bring in Imran, who got in contact with us, who wants to share his views. Hello, Imran.
Yeah, good morning. Hi. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for contacting us about this. You're from Bradford. What do you think about this? Are you a counter-terrorism citizen?
Well, I just work, obviously, in the community voluntary, and I talk to kids and stuff. What amazes me is that in 2018, we've got 20,000 less police officers on the street. We're doing the best that we can in terms of helping the police and everything. But I think they have got their hands tied. You mentioned the NHS, the cutbacks in all the services. Now, they're going about terrorism. It's so one-sided. If you look at back when the British and Irish passports were stolen by British Israeli citizens, there was nothing done against them. In fact, they made threats against the British government. And I think that, when you look...
I must admit, I'm not familiar with that. So, I have to confess...
if you look it up...
But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, the government may totally disagree with you on that. But carry on anyway.
Well, if you look at this government, in every case, they've known about the individual involved. You know, we've found that information out. The community, you know, from the friends, the parents.
But you know what the police would say is they know about them because of the community helping and supporting them.
And the police need help. You know, we're there to help the police. And, you know, if you look at the 20,000 less police officers on the street, it's absolutely disgusting that, you know, in 2018, you know, what more, you know, do they want the people to do? Because at the very highest level, from Theresa government and this, you know, and the Tories, I think what these people are doing is they're creating this divide and rule. And, you know, I honestly think that, you know, the people of this country, you know, they've done as much as they can and they'll continue to help out. But, you know, at the very grassroots level, you need to help people. You need to put more police officers on the street. You know, you need to put more. There's so much money in this country. Yet, you know, look at the NHS and, you know, honestly, I'm just absolutely amazed.
Okay, Imran, you know, in some of the points that you made about criticising government, I mean, I'm sure the government feels that it isn't trying to divide and rule, and that actually its policies are genuinely motivated to sort of address the issues that we're all worried about within the limitations that they're having to work with in terms of, you know, very tight finances and things like that. Henna, what do you think in practical terms we need to be doing to help the police on this?
I think practically,
and helping ourselves, effectively.
And of course, you know, we need to continue that dialogue between communities and the police force, as well as counter extremism experts as well. There needs to be a lot more grassroots engagement. The engagement needs to come from people at grassroots level without feeling that they are doing something wrong. Because the other problem that we have as an organisation when it comes to our outreach work, a lot of people have come up to me and said, but you know, we've been told that what you're doing with Prevent is haram and it's targeting us, and you know, and we're wrong to actually come and attend your events. No, that you know, this demonization needs to stop. There needs to be this sense of fear of being spied on needs to stop. There needs to be that greater engagement. We all have a responsibility to keep our cities and our country safe as citizens. You know, and let's live up to that. Let's get engaged. Closing and shutting down dialogue has never been helpful. Shutting down the support and the work that's being done in this arena, the important work by groups such as Warn, such as Inspire, who have been in this for years, is never ever helpful.
Okay.
And what they are afraid of is, you know, frankly, something that there is no need to be afraid of, unless they just can't tolerate strong women being in the field. I don't know what it is still, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. That's Henna Rai from Women Against Radicalisation Network, and earlier we also heard from Imran Shah, who's from the Muslim Public Affairs Committee.